Hello, thank you for watching and for stopping in. Welcome to FHALenders.com. Today we are going to talk about getting an FHA loan or buying a house with a recent foreclosure in your history. Now, of all of the credit events, foreclosures in the lender's eyes are the worst because you stop making mortgage payments, and that's what they are afraid of. It's different than filing for a bankruptcy, where in many instances people are just running away from their consumer debt but continue to make the mortgage payments. So in most instances it's going to be quite a few years to be able to get an FHA loan or any kind of mortgage, quite honestly, with a recent foreclosure. So for example, conventional loan, you must wait 7 years. A VA loan, you can wait as little as 2 years, but you have to be a veteran, active military, spouse of a veteran. So most people don't qualify for that. A USDA loan for a rural area, that's 3 years waiting period. A subprime loan, you can get a mortgage right after your foreclosure. Okay, but with those loans, the down payment's going to be much larger, and the credit score requirements is going to be a little tighter, and the interest rate's going to be a lot higher too. So there's that. But an FHA loan, the waiting period is going to be 3 years. Now, that a lot of people say, well, when does the 3-year waiting period start? When does the clock start ticking? And it really depends on whether the home that you just had a foreclosure on, whether the mortgage for that home was an FHA loan or not. So if it was an FHA loan, the 3-year waiting period begins when HUD issues the mortgage insurance claim to the lender that was holding that mortgage. So when the lender gets reimbursed for the mortgage insurance claim after you filed for bankruptcy, after you had the foreclosure, that's when the 3-year waiting period starts. Okay, if your home was not financed with an FHA loan, then the waiting period begins the day of the sheriff's sale, when your home was sold. So now the challenge is, and the thing that we've seen quite a bit, is that sometimes there's a delay in both of those things happening. A delay in the claim getting filed by the lender to HUD to get reimbursed, and also a delay in the lender just taking the action on the foreclosure and bringing the home to auction. Sometimes they sit on the house, which in theory is really unfair to you or anyone else who has had a recent foreclosure, because you're out of the house, you're no longer living there, you've moved on, they're still sitting on it, and so the clock hasn't started ticking yet on your ability to get another mortgage. So those things are absolutely happening. Now, the guidelines to apply for an FHA loan after a foreclosure, aside from the waiting period, you obviously need to qualify based on the normal FHA lending guidelines, which is 2-year work history, 3.5% down payment if your credit score is over 580, and you need to provide the last 2 years W-2s and tax returns if you are W-2 wage earner. You need to stay within the DTI guidelines or requirements, which is below 56%. But you know, the bigger thing though is, because of the foreclosure, is that lenders are going to also look to make sure that you've reestablished your credit. You don't have any late payments on your credit report right now. There are no outstanding collections and no recent bankruptcies. So you really need to focus on getting your credit back in the right place after you've had the foreclosure and it's behind you. So now, some people are asking about the exceptions to the foreclosure waiting period. Yes, there are exceptions. However, they're very limited, and it's extremely rare that they are granted. So you need to have level set your expectations on getting exceptions. So you need to have demonstrated that there was an unfortunate illness or death to the primary wage earner who was responsible for paying the last mortgage on the home that was just foreclosed upon. So that's an unfortunate situation, and if that did happen, then there is a chance you can get an exception to the waiting period for the foreclosure waiting period. The other exception that potentially would be granted is if you got divorced. Up until the time you were divorced, there were all on-time payments on the mortgage. After the divorce, if your ex-spouse was responsible for making the payments and didn't, then it's possible to get an exception there too. But those are the only two reasons that I'm aware of where you can get an exception. And like I said, it's extremely rare. So a regular divorce does not qualify for an exception, only in the situation I described before. A job loss, just having a job loss doesn't qualify for an exception. If you are relocated by your company and you weren't able to continue to make the payments on the home you left, and you were foreclosed upon, that's not a reason. If you were going through the pandemic and you had a job loss for that purpose, that is not going to be a reason why you're going to have an exception granted for your foreclosure waiting period. So that's not going to work either. At this point, in most instances, you're going to have to wait the 3 years to get an FHA loan. It should not be a problem if you have reestablished your credit. If you'd like to have a conversation with someone or get pre-approved, just visit FHALenders.com. I'm also leaving a link to the website in the first pinned comment below and also in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we will see you again next time.